Hello and welcome. Yesterday, with all our excitement and waving and awards around, I forgot to do one important thing. I didn't say thank you to Prince Minka for holding the fort while I was away. So, Prince, thank you very much. Everybody said you did good, and that's brilliant. But folks, in 1995, the United Nations set aside the first Monday of every October every year as World Habitat Day to reflect on the state of towns and cities and the basic right to adequate shelter for all, and to remind the world of its collective responsibility for the future of human habitat. Ghana, it seems, doesn't have any particular policy concerning planning of our towns and cities, despite the town and city planning departments and local government. Now, I could be wrong, but it seems as though we decide to let people decide where they want to live, and then government will work its way around it. Now, the danger of this living is the spiring up of unplanned communities and slums, because it takes government a while to catch up. And residents of these communities live without basic amenities, sometimes up to 20 years or more. And thankfully, government is tired of chasing community development and wants to set things straight. Today we have outlined a slum policy, and I'm going to find out what it is. My name is Nana Sakwa, and this is PM Express. When I come back, I will introduce my guest. Well, is Ghana slumming it? And that's what we're asking. And with me to talk about this issue and discuss it, as you know, I'm very passionate about it. To my immediate left is Neil Antivanderboy, who's a Deputy Local Government Minister and also Honourable Member of Parliament for Odududu. Neil, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're not a stranger to my show. And then to my far left is Abdallah Hassan. He's the Secretary of the Slum Unions of Ghana. Abdallah is also not a stranger to this show. Abdallah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, let me start with Neil. What is the plan for slums in Accra?
Well, thank you very much. And first, let me say, today, even though it's a Tuesday, unlike tomorrow or yesterday, it's a day on its own. Yesterday was supposed to be the commemorative day of the World Habitat Day, because it's first Monday of every October. But because of the ADR, and then also the fact that it was a national holiday, we had to celebrate the day today. But that doesn't take anything away from the significance of the day. I think the day is very good indeed. And the theme chosen for the day, the voices from the slum, is appropriate. I think it is time now for the people in the slum areas also to be heard. As a member of parliament for possibly one of the biggest slums in West Africa, I think the day was very much in tune with my ideals and what I stand for. If you're talking about the situation in Old Fadama, you're talking about Abubuloshin, you're talking about Abuja, you're talking about Babylon.
They all fall under Adododo.
Yeah, or within the Odo.
So that's your minister
area. Yeah.
I see.
And so it's really a problem for me. So I'm very happy that the Ministry of Local Government has something to do with the issue of slums, together with the Ministry of Works and Housing and also Ministry of Health and other stakeholders. But let me make one point clear. Nobody should think that the people who live in these slum areas are less human. They are as human as we are. It's just by the grace of God and by providence that we are blessed. Our God has been gracious enough to us for us to be living in much more developed areas. And these our unfortunate brothers and sisters are living in such deplorable and deprived areas.
I would say they've been denied basic opportunity. I wouldn't blame it to God at all.
I would not say that it is somebody's wish and somebody's intention to deny them such facilities. You know, the slums sometimes develop as a result of unplanned residential accommodation. For example, what I know about Old Fadama was that it was used as a sort of settlement during the outbreak of the Kokomananumba War. And so it was not intended to be a permanent settlement. But day in and day out, after the war, what remedial measures as a country did we put in place in order to integrate the people who were displaced by the war back into their communities and their societies? We didn't. And so when the people found a place, well, if there's no plan for us to go back and there's already job for us, or we can do something to earn a living here in Accra, why do we go back? So it keep on growing, it keep on growing. And once people get congregated at a place, you should understand that there'll be intermarriages, people were born into it. People, relations who want to dependents who want to follow the people who they were depending on. So everybody will come in. So it had become a community over the period. But as a country, when we saw that that place was growing, immediately what we should understand is that since they are Ghanaians and they are entitled to certain rights and liberties and responsibilities, and also we as a people need to also be responsible towards them, what we should do in all planning management cases and human management cases was to immediately extend those services, those rights to them, which over the period has not been done. And let me say this, so most of the time, anytime I go there, I live there with an indictment on my conscience as a human being to allow my fellow human beings to live in that condition. That is mine as a member of parliament, as a government appointee, as a public official. It is my wish that I have the miracle to all of a sudden change the environment at Old Fadama and make sure the people who live in there will be there. Well, a lot of, when I was even an assembly member, I do put up a paper at assembly to see how best we can solve the problems of Old Fadama. And as a government official, I've also tried. We are thinking seriously about what to do with Old Fadama, especially to see what we can do with the situation there. It's quite a difficult situation. It's talking about a slum where we have close to about 50,000 people from different cultures. People should not be deluded in thinking that the people who are there are only people from the north. There are indigenous Ghanaians there, people from the Volta region, Ashanti region, Eastern region. Every part of Ghana is at Old Fadama. So it's more or less a microcosm of Ghana at that place. And so we should look at how we'll be able to solve all the problems they have. Sure. As a ministry, let me say this.
Are we thinking relocation or rebuilding?
Well, there are so many dimensions to it. It depends on what we have to do. We've been holding stakeholder consultations with some of them. And one thing that I'm so delighted about is for them to have a union now, as I have a secretary sitting down. It makes it more easier for you to be able to identify those who you can bring to the table to talk, to negotiate, and to consult, and to think about. And today, one of the things they said is, when they came up with the issue of voices from the slum, was that some of them pay taxes. Some of them make good living. They do good jobs. And I know at Old Fadama, there are people who are working in the civil service, people who are working in other public institutions, but because of the difficulty of shelter and accommodation in Accra, they use that place something like a transit quarters. And as and when they gather enough resources, or they get accommodation, this much more decent accommodation elsewhere, they move into.
Let me bring Abdullah in here. So, has the state consulted you, and are you in agreement with whatever plans they have for you?
For now, yeah. The earlier plan to move us to Ajinkotoku is what we know of. And even that one, what we found was that the preparation over there was not adequate, because they built just a market, police station, and then a school. But even the market was too small for the yam sellers from our observation. So we realized that we needed to go back to the table. But ever since, we've not heard anything yet. But we are hoping to hear something soon.
Do you find the problem is that some big shots sit in an office and decide that this will be good for them, rather than coming to you to find out what is good for you? I mean, do you get that?
Yes, yes. Normally, that is what happens, especially at the AMA. I remember the PRO saying that he has never stepped foot in the community and he will not step there. And that was a big worry to me, because you are the PRO of the AMA and our community as part of the AMA. And if you say that you never step your foot there, then how do you plan for the community? So normally what happens is that if the big men don't include we, the residents there, sometimes they can imagine some things, and then at the end of the day, it may not be suitable for us. Take the market at Ajenkotuku, for example. It was built for the yam sellers. But a look at the shops will tell you that it's not even suitable for yams. You can't keep yam in such small rooms. So, and I know if they had consulted the yam sellers, they would know what kind of structure or what kind of shade would be good for a yam market. But because they didn't consult us, they finished building it before they even sent some of us to go and see how it looks. So normally that's the problem.
What would you want, to relocate or rebuild where you are?
Honestly, we know that the conditions under which we live is not very good. So any better condition is okay for us, provided it is done well and fairly. I mean, like if it's relocation and it will not affect our lives negatively, it will not affect our business negatively, then fine. And I'm sure that can be done if we are consulted, if we sit down together. They will understand our needs, and I'm sure they can develop plans to meet the needs. Definitely there will be some compromises. We have to forgo some of the things that we enjoy here, and then to live in a better life. But they can't do it just in isolation without us. That one, it may not work.
You see, now maybe I'm being prejudiced, but my viewers are probably watching you with your iPad. You speak eloquently. So, I expect you to live in Dansoman, exhibition, control, first stop. I expect you
but
to
that is
live,
what I said.
I expect
You may be deluded in thinking that the people they are there are just people, riffraffs or people. But I have been there. I've lived with them. There are a lot of people, medical students, people who have finished university graduates. You have a lot of public servants, civil servants, and all things living there. They are not living there because they are happy living there. They are living because necessities of life today has made it impossible for them to live in a much more convenient environment. So you may tend to classify all of them as Kayaye or Kayaye in that area. No. So, like he said, if you sit anywhere as a policy maker and you try to evolve a policy that involves them, and you don't make them part of the policy making process, you may be making a great mistake. Because, like he said, when I went to Ajenkotuku, seriously, the minute I saw the place, I said, my people will have a problem with this. I know. Because if somebody is a yam market, and you know how delicate yam is, and you build a straight concrete structure where there is hate, you should know that that environment will not be suitable for anybody to store his yam. Like if they have been involved, then they will know, or they will make inputs as to how they want that environment to be like. The other side of it is that the people who designed Ajenkotuku maybe did not know, they don't have the data, they don't have the statistics as to the number of people who live at Old Fadama. The idea is that move the market to Ajenkotuku, and it will by all means move the people away from the place. But it is wrong assumption. The wrong assumption. It is not everybody there who works in the yam market. You understand? We have yam market, we have onion market, we have palm oil market, we have so many other. We have fowl sellers, we have livestock. So you need to look at all these people, and then there are the ordinary people who also do their menial job like cooking. They close to about 50% of the food we buy, the rice and wache and the rest that people sell in the markets and things in Accra, come from that area. They come from that area. So those people, you need to take consideration of all the people. People maybe they didn't do what we call the community analysis very well before evolving the sort of strategy to relocate them.
I was watching your program, listening to your speech, and 17% of the 25 million people in Ghana live in Accra, out of which 8% live in slums. We are overwhelmed.
It's amazing. Like we said, some time ago, about 10 to 15 years ago, less than 50% of Ghanaians live in the urban areas. The last census tells us close to about 52%. of Ghanaians, about 51.70% of Ghanaians now live in urban areas. But let's ask ourselves, have we planned our urban areas for this expansion, for this influx? No. So the same facilities, increased population, pressure on the facilities. So what it has that once is bursting, people will definitely find a place to live. And anywhere they get, that's the reason why we're having a streetism. That's the reason we're having these slums.
So what's the government doing about it?
So,
or what the state's doing?
Let me say, the consciousness have come a bit too late now, but it's good that it's come now. The slum upgrading and prevention strategy to guide all MMDAs is evolved, and we shaping it up. Apart from that, there has been other, let me say, policies of government, of the programs of the Ministry of Local Government to look at the urban upgrade, for example, and also the issue of Greater Accra. We have the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation Project to address
sanitation. So what
sanitation.
would you do? Break down the shacks and build small houses for them? What are we going to do?
It may be something, I cannot conclusively say this is what we are going to do here, because it's been done before other places. You look at Bloomfields in Zimbabwe, you look at the Bronx in the USA, and look at other places like the slum in Rio de Janeiro, the different, so we're looking at all these strategies. If it's a matter of straight out relocation, you can't just relocate. You must relocate accompanied with sustainable employment opportunities for the people we are locating. If you are moving them from here to another place, there must be a sustainable employment opportunities for them so that they will not come back. Because when you put a person to another place and there's no job, there's not something that will let the person engage the person will come back. The person will always gravitate towards where he can make a living. So that is what we are looking at. There has been other proposal, for example, getting money, and estimates were done. I will not want to mention figures here, to rebuild a whole community somewhere, if we can have a land up north.
But why don't you give them permission to build? Why don't you get your permission so that then everybody's giving a minimum specification to say, look, if you want to live here, you have to build a minimum specification. I mean, would you do that?
Yes, we would. In fact, there are international NGOs that are ready to assist us build better structures. But the problem is that we don't own the land. Yeah. And the landowners are not ready to release the land to us. So that's the
compulsory purchase government?
That will be difficult. That will be extremely difficult, because
you have the platform.
Let me say this. The issue of Old Fadama, for example, touches the core of the Ghana people, because it was once a settlement. Kwame Nkrumah moved the people from there to New Fadama. We have New Fadama, and they were told the place was going to be used for something else. So if you want to use it for another purpose now, again, you have to go back to the chiefs and be able to convince them.
It's a national crisis.
Yeah, and you see, the problem too they also have is the fact that they are also saying that our own children also don't have a place to sleep. And really, truly, when you go to Bukom area, you go to some of my area, there's real difficulty with accommodation. The same land space over generation. So people, there's a choking. So people, the agitation is that if we have this land, then if there's going to be any situation at all, we should have priority access to the place. So that is also a thorny issue which we've handled. Let me be frank with you. It's the sort of characteristics of the Ghana people. They are hospitable. They want to have people. That has kept this thing where it is. And I'm happy about the relationship that have existed between the people at Old Fadama and the chiefs. They almost live like a family now. But immediately you start talking about outright alienation, it raises sentiments. I'm being frank, I'm being
so
truthful
lease
here.
It and give them monthly, lease it.
Yeah, that is the issue. The difficulty has
so that the landowners would earn some money.
I think it must be a issue where the state, all of us, including my brother, all people, still will sit down one day and say, we must tackle this issue once and for all. You know, there were attempts made, but because people do not adhere to the international conventions on moving people, some lawyers, human rights lawyers, have to go to court, and judgment was given in favor of the people. So that has also raised a sort of question, because that some people don't want to touch the issue because it's gone through court and all those things. But like my brother is saying, there was consultation where people agreed that we want to provide money, enough money, for building of decent apartments somewhere in the north, which will take care of about 35,000 people. And then we also provide some amount of money for sustainable economic activity for the people who will be relocated, and also some money for ecological sustainability in terms of tree planting and all those things up there, so that this prime land will be put to commercial use. That idea is still on the table being looked at. But you see, when you put up ideas like that and it's not implemented within a particular time frame, what happens is that maybe you did your analysis based on a particular number, size of a population. Within 2-3 months or 6 months, if you don't effect it, that size become outmoded. You understand? Mm-hmm. So now you have to re-look at all the whole plan again.
I want to take a break, and then when I come back, look the challenge facing us now. And as I speak, there are still little slums developing, and you ask, why don't we stop it before it happens? Why do we wait till this point and then we are all caught up in it? Stay tuned, coming back. Hello, welcome back to this dilemma, if I may say. And all over the cities within Ghana are slums developing, because naturally people would move where they can get some economic activity so they can feed. So obviously if you're not farming or fishing, then by all means you'd have to be inland somewhere doing something. And there aren't any houses, because we are 2 million upside down in terms of houses. And man must sleep. So I think we are stuck. We're going to throw our hands up in the air and say, just wait for the worst to happen, because I don't see us solving this problem. Truth be told, I don't see us solving this problem.
Today, on behalf of the ministry, instructed all MMDAs to do their slum profiling. What we want to do is that we want to have a new profile of all the slums. I think that will help us be able to really do the community analysis and do the needs assessment of the slums very well. Because, Nana, you agree with me, and my brother will bear with me, that the situation of the slum at Old Fadama is definitely different from the slum around Kumoji Clinic, near the police headquarters. Yeah. Have you been there? Yeah. Where we have these cane basket people and all those things. Behind them is a whole slum. The conditions and the needs of those at Old Fadama definitely will be different from those at Kosovo.
So why don't we put strict measures in there so they don't develop?
And that is structural defect in our local administration system. I believe seriously.
Even though it's not your fault, it's now your problem.
Oh yeah, I agree. I take full responsibility for it. That's why we need to take it up, take the bull by the horn and try. And that's why I've asked all the MMDAs to profile for us. Then we take a strategy. Because then when we know that this is and then we are addressing the problem, I would then, as a ministry, would then be responsible enough to hold any MMDA responsible for the emergence of new slums. You understand? Because as we're talking today, there's somebody who has gone to put a shack somewhere. And then the MMDA, an authority, somebody charged with the responsibility of making sure that shack is not there, will close his eyes or pretend he has not seen.
Who's the MMDA for around the mall?
The mall.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, the mall area has a problem now because of the
when
demarcation.
It started.
We don't really. We are still struggling.
To find out who's responsible for it.
The boundary assessment committee is still working on. It's between Lekma and Ladma. You understand? Lada Kotopon, and then this thing, Lejukuku Krowo. There's been some sort of tension.
So is it a free zone now?
It's not a free zone.
No, see,
for now, Ladma is providing security for the area. And recently, because there was a law and was confusion between the two assemblies, it allowed some people to take advantage of the situation, and a lot of slum has gone up there within some short time.
And a market and an illegal, car park and everything. And when it started, I know Joy FM went on and on and on and on about it. So when they do the profiling, whoever is responsible for that, it still has to be penalized for it.
Today, the Ladma chief executive was at the program. She hosted the program, and she did make that point that we immediately will need to take a look at that.
No, we've been talking about this for the last 3 years, so not immediately. She hasn't got a point.
She's very new in the job. She came last year. So
no, it's a fault. Now let me talk to my brother. Why is it that you have to build and then the state has to sort of build around you or now manage whatever you create? I mean, that's also a bit unfair. There are rules. There are planning laws on the state. So yes, I understand that you have to find food, but so does everybody. What if everybody decided to break the law? Then where do we go? So I think you also have to, come to the table, and play fair. So what are you going to do to help, the minister?
Honestly, we are always open to any positive discussion that will lead to developing Ghana. We are not against development. We like to see Accra beautiful. And the point is that...
You're certainly not proving that.
The point is that for now, that's the situation we find ourselves in. And it's though partly our fault, but not entirely our fault, because the first people who settled there were brought there by the government. In fact, the first 3 groups who came there...
Are you representing settler slums, or you represent even those who are squatter slums too? Do you represent squatters?
We represent all slums.
Whether they're squatters or whether they were settlers.
But what we also... our main objective is to persuade government to redevelop the existing slums and to stop any other slum from developing. So it's not as if we actually like to have slums so we can represent them. No. What we are trying to do is that the existing slums, we have them already. We can't throw them away. We can't throw the people out. So let's find ways of redeveloping them. But the local authorities should also do their work so that new slums will not develop.
Abdullah, I've seen pictures of Soweto, right?
Yeah.
Now, they all live in just tins and cardboards, but their surroundings are spotless.
Yeah.
That was my message today.
I
told him.
I have been to Kibera, a slum in Kenya. Mm-hmm. And a part of it also calls Soweto. In fact, it's undergoing some slum upgrading right now. That part is very clean. But what I noticed was that there was a waste management company that comes in there almost every day to pick up their waste. But what we find in Ghana or in Old Fadama, for example, is that we clean our environment, we put the refuse down, and then it's there. We don't have any waste management company assigned to the community. We have talked to the AMA about that, and all they tell us is the community is an illegal settlement, and they cannot assign any waste management company to an illegal settlement. So sometimes we even do general cleaning. We clean and then we put the refuse there. That's it.
That still goes back to what I have said, the profiling. Once we profile, then we accept the fact that this is our responsibility. And then we can now assign specific responsibilities to people and make sure they deliver. Whether we like it or not, the recent cholera outbreak can also be traced to some of the activities in the slum areas. And today I was very emphatic. I didn't hide my feelings at all in telling them that the fact that you live in a slum does not mean that you can throw personal hygiene to the dogs. Because you may live in the slum, but then depending on how you maintain yourself, that will let somebody also see you in a different light. But if you, because you live in a slum, you just dump anywhere, you defecate anywhere, you throw rubbish anywhere, you do what anywhere, the health implications would definitely be grave. And if you look at the numbers of those who were affected by the cholera, a lot of the people come, almost about 70% of the people come from the slum areas of Accra. So it is important that if also us want to avoid the cholera from recurring, happening again tomorrow, then it's also our responsibility, like Abdullah said, to also make sure that we extend basic social services to the people who live in that environment, and then force them to adhere to the basic, sanitation rules, do what they're supposed to do. They themselves also should live up to their responsibilities and make sure that the community leaders and the rest enforce the bylaws on sanitation within those communities. So, because whether we like it or not, it may be an illegal community, but they have electricity, they have water. How did they get them? You understand? So once certain services have gone to them, they may be illegal from the start, but once they've settled as a human society and these services have gotten to them, you've already legalized the illegality. So what you should do is to find corrective measures in order to arrest the possible backlashes and the things that will come from that settlement. And that is what we have not done well.
You see, there are certain slums that have been demolished, and now they're trying to regularize the ones that are there. So those that have been demolished, have they contacted you saying, no, this is not fair because we're all the same? How can ours be broken down and yours be regularized? Being the secretary, have you had any?
No, they've not. But normally what we notice is that when slums are demolished in other areas, most of them move into Old Fadama. Most of them move into Old Fadama. So that also contributes to the large numbers you see in Old Fadama. A slum was demolished around Circle, Ekomok. Most of the people moved into Old Fadama. And just recently, Art Center, Mensangini, and most of the people are coming to Old Fadama also, because they cannot even afford to rent. So they will have to find another slum to move into.
I mean, what's the legality in making women and children homeless? I mean, there must be some.
That's why I said it's an indictment on our conscience, and I believe as a people, as a country, and all of us should bow our heads in shame for allowing this to fester the way it has. Now, it is not only Old Fadama. In Accra alone, we're talking about 8 slums. Talk about Ashama. Talk about Tema, around the fishing harbor area. You go to Kumasi, talk about the race course, the old market, the central market area. You talk about Takoradi, you go to Takoradi, talk about the railways area. It's all over the country. And it is time we take it as an issue and make the best that we can in order to arrest the situations in these slums. You see, like he said, and I agree, for example, Abuja was just demolished because the road has to be extended in order to ease traffic on the Graphic Road at certain times. It used to be a road and a railway crossing, but people decided to. It's like that. It all boils down to the fact that sometimes people who are entrusted with the responsibility of enforcing regulations go to sleep. And sometimes they oversleep.
The thing is, they are not penalized, so they can afford to sleep.
Yeah, I agree, because if, for example, it is the responsibility of a building inspector in this A community, and he sees structures coming up, illegal structures, and he didn't go in to enforce the regulation, and it develops, I think that building inspector must suffer some consequences.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but if we don't develop the habit of sacking from the top, then it always happens, because we always sack.
I don't want to mean that you want me to be sacked.
Well, because if I try to sack you, you then check your subordinates. Who will check your subordinates? Who will check your subordinates? You see, if you don't,
the Russian philosophy.
Yeah, if you don't put the guy in power at the corner, then nobody works.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I agree seriously. I agree with that. I think we must all be responsible for some of these lapses in our society because we've taken things for granted. I think yes, Ghana has been a society where people have sympathy for those who do wrong.
Too much. Too much.
You know, I always say, sometimes I see people even shedding tears for armed robbers when they are arrested.
See, my point is, we've been discussing for quite a few minutes now, and I don't see any way forward.
Oh, yeah, there is. I'm telling you, once we do the profiling very well, and then we start looking at the community needs and assessment, and do the community profiling
What would then happen is, new slums won't develop, but the old existing slum will burst out of their seams. Because now somebody will come from Dumasa and say, well, now I can't go and form my own slum, so I need to move to Fadama or move to Abubloshi. And bear in mind that those in Abubloshi are also giving birth and multiplying.
That is, as we continue to prevent new slums from emerging, we should also immediately, side by side, look at how to do simple relocation. Slowly relocating the people.
I mean, Abdullah, you're due to move out. I mean, you've already been to Kenya. I've been to Kenya. You have an iPad, which is nicer than mine. You know, so I mean, you shouldn't be living in Abubloshi. You should be clearly moving into.
I just. Abdullah sitting here is a student at Legon. Yeah, level 400, final year. It is his wish that there's somebody who could pay for his hostel, so he will stay on campus and have that environment to read and to pass well. But because there's nobody, the only thing he can do is to stay at Abubloshi and be commuting to Legon all the time. You see the difficulty? I don't think is it your wish?
No, of course not.
No, he's just telling me that he submitted a letter to my office because it is one of my cardinal principles to support people within the constituency who are determined to further their education.
That's a clear determination.
Yes, and I'm just telling him that I'm surprised I've not seen the letter yet. So that is the issue.
At least through PMS Press, we are going to get Abdullah some scholarship.
Yeah, so once I'm able to set it up, for someone like him, if I have to go and borrow from the bank in order to pay for his hostel, I will, so that he can have that environment in order to study and pass well. Because when he has become somebody, he could also take somebody away from that slum. Maybe he gets himself a job or he starts a business. He could get one or two people away from that slum. That's the only way we can help ourselves. But if I allow him to continue there, and maybe he didn't end well, he may, because of the environment, he may not have that room. And I'm very, very sure that he's having difficulty in reading. Because that environment is not an environment where you can really read comprehensively. Am I lying?
Yeah, that's true.
It's difficult. so
it's very
naturally,
noisy 24 hours.
Somebody like him, that place is a 24-hour live band situation. I'm telling you. Nana, you've not been there before.
No, I haven't.
Nana, I will take you on excursion.
Oh.
I will take you on excursion.
I need to brave it.
Yeah. Nana,
I drive by it and it's scary just looking at it.
In fact, if you like, from here, try and pass through. We have nightclubs there. We have hotels. We have motels.
That's a revelation. Stay tuned, we're coming back. Hotels, stay tuned, we are coming back. Okay, now in the last few minutes before the show ends, we're going to try and find out if we can even solve maybe 5% of this issue facing us. Now, Abdullah raised something which is quite scary, is, children that are born into the slums now. I mean, they know nothing other than the slums. If they are not lucky to go to any fantastic school, which is very hardly, what happens?
Yes. In Old Fadama, for example, there is no government public school there. And the private schools are just schools by name. You find a school that is sharing the same room with a video center, or like one room is being used for a whole primary school from primary 1 to primary 6. Most of the children are not in school, let me put it this way. And unfortunately, those children who are not in school, most of them, their parents are very busy. They go to the market early and come home late in the evening. These children are left in the community to associate with other people who don't go to the market, and obviously if they don't go to the market, most of them are negatively behaved people. So children associate with them, and they are growing, learning the lifestyle of such people. And that is my biggest worry now, because if we don't tackle that problem now, in 15 years, when these children grow and become hardened criminals, it will be a big problem to us in the country. So I think now the government should pay attention to the children in slums now, especially in Old Fadama. You know, Old Fadama is not sharing boundaries with any community. It's surrounded by the lagoon, and then in front of it is the market. It's only behind the market that you find another slum. So the children, most of them are not associating with any community. They are learning only the lifestyle of slums. And those of them who don't even go to school outside the community, what they are already practicing as children is very dangerous. Some of them are already trying to learn how to smoke. You see 9 years, 11 years old girls who are trying to be prostitutes. And that's very dangerous.
They're not trying, they are already. Because that's what I said.
So
I said today.
Can there be a policy to just maybe just rescue the children, and you have a generation that will grow out of it?
That is, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but that the legal consequences
No,
of that.
not rescue us, take them off, but maybe find a school outside of the community.
That is all part of the urban upgrading. You need to give them those social services, because I have said that the voice today when I was talking, I told them the voices for the slum is drugs, crime, prostitution, violence. And these are the voices that you hear every day. Like he said, the small baby growing up, these are the things he sees, these are the things, the sounds he hears every time. So the environment will definitely have an impact on that child growing up. He grows with that environment. So it gets to a time he knows no other environment apart from violence, drug, prostitution, and all those things. So what do we do? Like he said, 15 years that we'll have an explosion of a number. Let's say, for example, if today the adult population there is about 50,000. If the children are half of the population, then you are talking about 25,000 children. Possibly in 10 years' time, these 25,000 could move to about 40,000. 40,000 children who have grown up in crime,
have nothing to do.
Drugs, and prostitution. How are you going to hold them? They don't have jobs to do. They don't have education. Nana, it will be a dangerous, very, very dangerous situation.
So is there a revolution to cart these children to an educational facility somewhere and condition their minds? Now that they're young, it's easy to condition
Let me
them.
say this. Some of the people there, some of the parents are committed enough and force their children to cross the bridge, go to school.
And it's too few.
Little cluster of school, but too few. And some of them, even some of the children are going to school. They are going because they are being forced to go. They are not convinced. There is no conviction that I must go to school, I must have education. They are being forced. Some of the parents virtually force them to go. But majority of them, no. The parents even don't have time. They get up in the morning, they're going to hustle. They're going to find something that will make them think about the child. You will leave the child behind. So I think that, like you said, and like Abdullah said, what we need to do is to make sure that we make those slums livable communities. Schools, hospitals, water, shelter, electricity, so that we can change the children a little bit, move them away. If you go there, you will not hear gospel song. Nana, am I lying?
Oh, it's true.
You not hear. You hear high, what do you call it? No, reggae. What do you call that reggae?
Raga.
No, the reggae, they have two types. Conscious reggae. You hear conscious reggae. You know, those are the things you hear. And it's blaring from morning to evening. The children go to stand at the video centers. Who even censors the sort of film that to be shown at a particular time? Pornographic films are being shown. I go there. Sometimes I spend almost a whole day there. And I'm telling you, but the good thing for me is that the leadership, the community leaders in those areas are so much concerned about the plight of their children in the future. And they are ready to sit down and to discuss.
Well, you have the platform.
Yeah, so, but sometimes it's not easy. I am happy today. I'm getting more involved because of my position as Member of Parliament and also Deputy Minister for Local Government. Now the problem is directly with me. So at the ministry, whatever I have to do in order to solve the situation, I have to. That's why
Maybe
I'm
we can start
happy.
with the girls. Every girl child should be bused to a school somewhere. Start with the girls.
Some NGOs have tried to put up what we can call a school. They've tried, and individuals have tried to.
But should the school be there? Shouldn't the school be outside? Bust them. Only girls. Start with the girls.
I totally agree with you, and I think that will be something.
Girls are
that is
polished,
something that we can look
their
at.
generation will be polished.
Some schools actually come in, take people and then pass them out, but mostly they are very expensive schools. The few ones that are not expensive are not also very effective, and people who are interested in their children's getting better education do not patronize them. But those children I'm talking about, they are not even in school at all. And most of them, their parents, they are either from single parents or children of some other people who don't even care.
Delinquent parentage.
So you find these children going around picking scraps. They are running errands for other unscrupulous people in the community and see them learning negative lifestyles.
Is there any way where we can also set up economic activities in other parts of the world, of the country, so that you draw traffic there? Because I keep saying there, people think I'm joking, that even if you want to be shot, you have to come to Accra, or you need to come to Tesh. Everything is in Accra. So even if you want to be shot, crown, you have to get yourself.
I think
into
that's the
Accra.
president's idea. You remember when he launched this new urban upgrading project with the late PVO being as the chairman of the National Development Commission, and then the idea is to develop our peripheries, develop areas like Kaswa, what do you call it, Amasaman, all those, but develop them very well so that it will pull people from the center to the, so that even those also in the peripheries will not come to the center anymore, so that we can break the inertia in the center. That's the whole idea, and we believe that if that program is successful, it will help. For example, Kaswa like this should be another place that we should be watching. If we don't develop, we don't sit down to really plan the development of Kaswa.
I think the chiefs are also getting away with murder. I think chiefs are getting away with murder because
you are a chief.
I know. And some of my colleagues, they will sell the whole land and not even give one plot to a police station. Or consider a fire station or school. No, just sell the whole plan, and just wear his glove and sit down and think, I've finished.
There is no planning.
So my colleague chiefs, are also part of the thing. But I hope that we can continue this discussion again.
After you paid a visit to the place.
Yes. I'm definitely going to do that. Definitely going to do that.
Okay,
folks, thank you very much. And, guys, thank you very much. It's been frightening and insightful. I'm sure my listeners have also, had an eye-opener today. But as I always say, we'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. And I'll definitely visit the slum and come and give you, first-hand report.